Hey guys, it's Alexander Williamson here with The Secret History Living Inside Your Aquarium. Part of history that's got us here today is how animals reproduce. And in this tank right now, we have mostly cyprinids. There are a few exceptions of some guppies, but essentially we have the white cloud minnow, and we have the micro fish as the celestial pearl danio, or also known incorrectly as the galaxy rasbora because it was discovered in 2006 and was not quite defined well enough. And in this video, we're going to be talking about breeding cyprinids. So cyprinids, that is kind of a wide category, but it includes anything that's kind of omnivorous. Usually it includes minnows, carp, and fish that are fairly adaptable. These ones that we're looking at today tend to all be really small. These Erythromicron Danios with the stripes on their side that you can see one coming up here, they're very shy and tend not to come out unless they're in a big group. So believe it or not, the reason you're seeing this guy is because there are a dozen of them in here and they're hiding. So for all the fish you see, there are 27 cyprinids in this tank, and it is a 20-gallon, but they're very teeny. And I do a lot of water changes because it's an active substrate. Now, the type of breeding I'm talking about in this video is colony breeding. And so my best luck, and I have to say I'm still learning because I've thrown these in a pond outside over the summer, and magically with some pearlweed and some java moss, basically babies appeared, and somehow they didn't get eaten. Mosquito larvae was plentiful, and I think that they decided to chow down on that. So you can try that, but they're pretty flexible for outdoor tubbing season. They can go down to cool temperatures at night. They slow their metabolism anyhow, usually in the evenings. And basically, they're really beautiful little fish. I mean, you can see here, they're active and interesting when you get enough of them. Now, for both of them, the males tend to be a little more brightly colored, and the females tend to be slightly larger, and they tend to have a belly on them. So right here in the leader of the pack going around the corner, that was a female, and they have a little black stripe in between their anal fin and the fin right in front of that. So this is a male with the bright orange fins there, but let's find a female. So a female right above him, right here, just moving quick, hiding again. She's got that black dot under her belly by her anal fin. That's a gravid spot, just like in guppies. The one in the far rear here, now she's in the rear. You can see that little notch on her back behind her anal fin. So that's one way to tell. With the white cloud minnows, which are also from a similar region, they're from China and Vietnam, and they are all found in water stream systems, fresh water, that is up pretty high, up 3,000 feet, 2,000 feet high, and they clearly made their way in those freshwater streams up to that height, and then they kind of settled in and evolved. Now, the interesting thing about the way they evolved, as I've discussed in past videos, and sometimes they're interesting to look at from above because you can find the males versus the females easier because of the wideness. So the females will have a wider body. So that undoubtedly, I'll point out a female when I see one. That's a female there. The males are darker and have more slender builds. It's not surefire, but the black gravid spot definitely is, unless they're having some sort of GI system backup. And with the minnows, the same thing goes. So you can kind of tell the slender ones and the brighter ones are generally males, whereas the duller striped ones are generally females. Now, to breed them in a colony setting like this, the key is ground cover and food. So you need an auto feeder hanging on the tank. you want to give them live food. You want to give them slightly moving water. So I've adapted a little pump here that I just ripped out of an old Fluval 5-gallon tank. And it's just at the top. It's enough to kind of ripple the water. But in the wild, they live in such a specific niche area. And here they're all kind of out right now, but they'll dart away as soon as I get close. They eat algae, so it's good to have a tank that's kind of cycled up and has some algae, has some things for them to eat in it. And also they love little teeny copepods, brine shrimp, things like that. So you can feed them all sorts of live food that's teeny. So vinegar eels, Daphnia, baby brine shrimp, they'll go for it. Anything that fits in their little mouths, they'll go for. But to breed them, they definitely, they don't need it, but your chances are going to go sky high that they will breed if you have live food, at least in the morning. So in the morning is when they tend to scatter their eggs, they're egg scatterers. They exhibit no real parental care, so to speak of, but when they lay their eggs, you'll see the female doing laps and getting the male's attention. The males will color up, which takes some energy. The females will drop anywhere, supposedly up to 30 eggs. I've always seen it be like more 5 to 15 eggs. And they'll drop them usually, and the male will then try to swoop underneath and put his milk all over the eggs as they're falling. Or if he can find where they landed, he'll put it there. And sometimes you get sneaker males, as they're known, who will swipe in and they have less pronounced markings, and they will actually try to fertilize just like a lot of cichlid species. So you got to watch out for like this teeny one here. Supposedly all these fish are the same age, and there's one that's really teeny compared to the rest, and isn't really clear whether it's a male or female. So I'll be watching him. Now, if you want to do a colony breed, it needs to be thicker than this. So I'm growing this in, and they need to have enough food and protein in their food. You're looking for at least 6% crude protein, if not way higher. And that's so the females can replenish in between laying eggs. Making eggs are pretty much pure protein and DNA, and so they really need to recharge after that, or they can become very kind of anemic and sluggish and just not doing well. So the best way to do that is to take 1 or 2 females, put them in a tank, and have a couple females set aside, and then scoop the females out after 4 or 5 days, and then replace them with another set of females. I know that's hard to do, and that's really labor intensive, so I'm not doing it. But when you do that, you can keep a glass bottom tank, and as soon as you see those eggs appear, you can really pull the adults out of there and then just let that be a fry tank. You can use a little potted plant with some pearlweed looking like this stuff here. This is pearlweed. Focus is pearlweed. But anything that's leafy and has fine little areas for them to attach eggs to, or for the eggs to get hidden under or to wedge between, gives those eggs a better chance of surviving the eating. In big groups, they'll scour the tank if you don't feed them like 4 or 5 times a day at least. And to trigger that spawning mechanism, they don't have to have it, but it's very, very important for them to feel like they have enough protein and or live food that their babies would survive. So you want to have a little bit of algae. Your tank, you probably shouldn't have it completely spotless. You want some mulch on the bottom of the tank too, just to kind of so it's a well-seasoned tank. That's always best for breeding in my experience. And the mountain minnows will breed like crazy. They lay more eggs, and basically the male will sit down over the fry or the eggs and the yolk sacked babies until they're ready to hatch. He'll kind of hang out in the area, and that's a little bit of parental care, but then he backs off. Sometimes they don't even do that. But I kind of just wanted to say that once you learn to sex them, and we'll have to do an up-close video, or you can Google it. It's everywhere. Seriouslyfish.com or .net has a lot of really good resources on that. But when you're doing colony breeding like this, the name of the game is density. So even though these plants have grown all up this tall, I keep cutting them down, trying to get them to branch off, replant tops, and I'm trying to get a tangled mess like this so that the eggs can fall down somewhere in here and get forgotten while the adults are cruising up here. You can see also it's important to give them lots of hiding spots, but also some open spots. They like to feel like they're bold for a second and they come out. It keeps them active and in good health. So other than that, I would say the water parameters that I like to keep are right around neutral. The water parameters that are recommended sometimes can be a little more on the jungle debris side, so that can end up looking like a little bit higher pH. But in their region, they get monsoon season flooding, and so they go from living in little 6-inch trickles of rice paddy, kind of flooded out swamp areas, to creeks that are swelling over and flowing over stone, including limestone and granite. So the pH can be pretty variable, but if you keep it fairly neutral, it seems like chasing pH with these guys is kind of hopeless. If you keep it in a normal realm, like 6.5 to 7.5, they seem to do just fine. But for me, the trigger that I've noticed really gets them going is a fresh water change. So you turn the heat up to about 76 to 78 after it's been around 72 or 4, and you leave it there for a week, and then you kind of suddenly drop it with a 30% water change. If you can kind of calibrate, maybe you put 70-degree water into the rest of the water, equalizes out, and that also drops the TDS. You can siphon off the bottom and everything, and this is for colony breeding, but that signals the start of the wet season, and they know they're not going to dry out in their little ponds and little areas that they've snuck off into. So that is a helpful little trick along with the protein. And then you want to be careful with shrimp in this tank. There's a lot of algae and there's a lot of other stuff, so I'm not too worried about it. But when these babies are brand new, they're so teeny that they're not even going to eat any food you provide them, other than maybe green water or infusoria. And basically having a well-cycled tank with algae and zooplankton, so obviously like the copepods and little teeny critters and seed shrimp and stuff like that, Daphnia even. Daphnia can mess with the eggs reportedly too, but the adults like to eat them. And then you obviously want the photosynthetic plankton too, which usually comes in colonies with the algae. So and this is also, a lot of this on my tank is a blue-green algae mix. So there's bacteria, there's fungi on different surfaces, all sorts of stuff. So there's lots of different options for the little guys to eat. So I hope this helps you guys out. It's going to be a shorter video. I'm not going to go super scientific in depth. The eggs tend to hatch in 3 to 6 days, kind of depends. And the warmer the water, the faster they will grow. They grow pretty quick after the first 2 or 3 weeks. They have kind of a yolk sac that they hang out with for a while, the first week after they've hatched. And they will rely mostly on that and then start eating like Aufuchs, bacteria, and biofilms, things like that. And then they'll need to have the things like microworms, white worms, vinegar eels, things like that, baby brine shrimp, ready for them for the best results. That being said, you could throw flake food in and they might just breed like crazy. Sometimes that happens too. But for ideal conditions, you want to do that. You want to give them lots of hiding spots, lots of nooks and crannies that are planted, and no real aggressive fish. Even the guppies and the minnows are a bit more aggressive than is ideal. So that's why there's only 3 minnows, even though they're fellow Cyprinids, but they are not fellow Danios. So they all kind of can deal with the same influx of temperatures. And that the same goes with guppies, really. Guppies like harder water, but they can do just fine in 7.0 or even 6.5. They'll survive. So, but they like 8.0. You know, that's their jam. It doesn't hurt to put more leaf litter in, but that's, again, I've seen people argue for and against that. So I hope you guys learned a little bit. I wish you the best of luck this tub season. Just don't let them overheat is the main thing. Keep the water over 55 degrees at night. Even if it dips below that, I think they'll sometimes survive. They'll go to the bottom and kind of go into a trance. But ideally, you want to keep that water like 60 at night at the very coldest. And, you know, that's the quote-unquote healthy range. And proceed from there. So, and just not let them get over about 85 degrees in the sun. So, lots of water aeration can help with that. All right, guys. Well, I hope that helps. Take care. Take care of yourselves so you can take care of your fish and swim on. Talk to you later. Bye.